We're here at the Cedar Rapids Ice Arena, home of the Rough Riders. After 36 hours of fun competition in the spirit of curling, only 2 teams remain undefeated in the A bracket final at the 2019 Cedar Spiel. It's going to be a study in contrasts, but everything that makes curling great awaits in our final. It's brooms, stones, sliding and yelling next on Mediacom MC22 with curling in Cedar Rapids. Welcome to curling in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on Mediacom MC22. It's day 3 of the 2019 Cedar Spiel and the A event finals. My name's Phil Burian and I'm here with my good friend Gwen Engen.
Hi, I'm glad to be here today, Phil, to commentate this game. Excited to watch it.
And Adrian Evans.
Good morning, Phil. Gwen, how are we doing today?
Good.
Just wonderful. It's been a long weekend, but we're ready for some good curling.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this. I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
So why don't we go ahead and meet our teams now.
Hi, I'm Molly O'Brien, and I play lead for Team Allmaker. I'm from Bellevue, Nebraska, and I work for a concert lighting company.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Sampson, and I'll be playing second for Team Allmaker. I've been curling for 1.5 years through the Exarban Curling Club, and I got started after watching Curling Night in America from Baxter Arena in Omaha.
Hi, I'm Nick Swirsek from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm vice skipping today, and I'm married to Kaylee on our team.
Nick Allmaker. I'll be the skip of Team Allmaker today. From Bellevue, Nebraska, software architect. Interesting thing about me, I have experience with another Winter Olympic sport. I've gone down the bobsled run in Salt Lake.
My name is Chris Geiger. I am throwing lead. I am out of Capital Curling Club in Bismarck. And my son got me into curling about 2 years ago, and it looked a lot of fun, so he started playing, and I figured, what the heck, I might as well try it as well, play with him.
My name is Phil Engen. I'm throwing second. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I got curling in the 8th grade in my phys ed class because we all curled in Herbert, Saskatchewan.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wagner. I'm vice throwing skips rocks. I curl out of the Capital Curling Club in Bismarck, North Dakota. And in 2011, I curled at the Women's Nationals at 8 months pregnant.
Hi, I'm Dan Burish. I curl out of the Capital Curling Club in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'll be calling the game today as skip, but not throwing skips rocks. Michelle will do that because she's better than me. I raise bees. I'm a beekeeper out of Bismarck and as a hobby beekeeper, but I supply all of the honey for the Bismarck Public Schools.
Well, as you can see, we have 2 teams with vastly different experience levels and a very broad, diverse background on what they do for their day jobs as well. Right now, we're going to take a 2-minute crash course on curling from our good friends at Canada Curling.
Curling, the game with the ice, and the rocks, and the sweeping, and the yelling. Each game starts with a handshake and a coin flip to determine who goes first. Then, 2 teams of 4 people take turns throwing 44-pound stones down a sheet of ice. The target? A 12-foot house that looks like a bullseye, just under 150 feet away. Each team throws 8 rocks, and the team closest to the center after all the rocks are thrown will score the points. This process is repeated for 6 to 10 rounds, called ends, until one team is victorious. It's just that simple. Or is it? Each team has a captain called the skip. Like a general on the battlefield, the skip calls the shots that will best ensure victory. Stones are delivered with a predetermined rotation, so they actually curl as they travel down the ice. Of course, this is why the sport is called curling. Over the course of each end, players can throw guards to block the house, draws to try to score, or takeouts to remove the opponent's stones. The skips then spend the rest of the time yelling like a crazy person. What they're actually doing is emphatically advising their players to brush the ice in front of the stone. Brushing can drastically affect the speed and direction of the shot. After each team throws its 8 shots, the team closest to the center of the house will score. Or, if they have more than one rock closer than the opposition, they count as well. Once all the ends have been played, whoever has the most points wins. Aside from a few dozen other minor details, that's all there is to it. Find a curling facility near you and get started.
One of the great things about curling is that there's all kinds of varied experience levels and things like that. And we saw that with the introduction of our 2 teams. In the video, it talked about the different skills that needed to be developed. Gwen, you've curled for a very long time. What is probably the most difficult thing to pick up about it?
Well, learning how to slide and deliver the stone is probably one of the most difficult things because you have to aim properly, you have to put the correct turn on, you have to have the correct weight, and so having all of those things come together at the same time is actually one of the most difficult things in curling.
Great. And when we come back from our break, we'll be able to see the 2 teams in action as they begin round 1 of the Cedar Spiel A event finals. You're watching Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22 was brought to you by Extreme, powered by Mediacom.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Welcome back to Curling in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. This is the 2019 Cedar Spiel, hosted by the Cedar Rapids Curling Club. Again, my name's Phil Burian. Gwen?
Hi, Phil.
What do you think we can expect to see today?
I think there's going to be a lot of good shot making today, and I think there's going to be a lot of excitement with these 2 teams. I'm really looking forward to watching this game.
All right, so we're getting ready for the first shot. You can see that the skip is set up here for calling where he wants the stone to actually be aimed for. And here comes the first stone. And we can see that the sweepers are beginning to kind of look at it, but they're listening to the skip. They're listening for him to say yes or no, on, off, some form of communication to tell them whether to sweep or not.
The first few stones in a game are always difficult to judge the weight because the surface has been repebbled and rescraped, and you just are never quite sure how fast the ice is going to be for a couple ends.
Here's a skip for Team Allmaker getting ready for his shot, and here comes their first stone.
Have a fast pace started already. Now, Gwen, they've put 2 stones in the house right away. What's the significance of that?
Probably both teams are just trying to figure out the ice a little bit, what kind of speed there is, what kind of weight they need to throw in order to get it to the house. They're just kind of trying to play a little bit more open so that they can work out what their strategy is going to be for the game. This is the lead player for Team Burish, and his name is Chris Geiger, and he curls out of Bismarck, North Dakota Capital City Club.
think he wanted a little more weight on that to get that blue one out.
He probably did, but again, since it's the beginning of the first end, I think teams are trying to work out what kind of weight they're going to need to throw.
And that's an interesting point, because in a lot of sports, you get to go out onto the field and warm up and check out different things. I'm thinking soccer and football, hockey, you get to be on the ice and warm up. What kind of warm-ups can you do with curling? Because you're really not allowed to send any stones down early before the beginning of play. So as a skip, what would you have done to kind of get yourself ready?
As a skip, as you get ready to play the first game, I would often watch the sheet that I would be playing on. So I would have sat and watched the end of the last game through the glass or up above or whatever, and just kind of watch to see what kind of speed the rocks have, what kind of curl there is, if the rocks move only a couple of feet or 4 feet, in order to get an idea of what the sheet is going to do when I come out to play.
And of course, also with arena ice, you're always trying to map out the falls, parts of the ice that aren't level and cause the stone to take a right turn in a hurry or a left turn in a hurry when you don't want it to.
Team Burrish from Capital City in Bismarck, North Dakota has got 3 rocks in the house now. They're off to a really strong start, aren't they?
They are. And do we want to, as a skip, would you want to have all 3 of those stones on the same side, or would you prefer to kind of spread them out a little bit more, make them a little bit more difficult to take on?
You might want to spread them out a little bit. We'll see how this end develops and if they start to be able to move them around or hit this other blue rock that's on the other side.
Now, this is the second blue stone actually in play, although it is their 3rd stone. What happened on the last one, the second stone for their first, is it didn't make it past the hog line. There's a lot of different markations and things like that on the ice. What would be the best way to describe the hog line?
The hog line is this. It's hard to see it compared to the center red hockey line. But it's the line that all rocks have to cross in order to be considered in play. So this rock from the Capital City Club is just going to come up a little bit short. It has to completely cross the hog line, or that red line, in order to be considered in play. Otherwise, it must be removed, as we can see that rock is being removed right now.
One thing about this ice is it's, since it is a public hockey rink, it's got a lot of particulate and material in the ice that causes it to cloud up. You don't typically see that kind of ice at a dedicated curling club, but here, because there's so many uses of the ice, it tends to cloud over a little bit, makes our markings a little harder to see.
Well, that was unfortunate miss there. You could see what they were trying to do, trying to come in on the 2 Burrish stones, and it just kind of slid past. Phil, you talked about particulate matter and things like that in the ice. There's also a lot of other lines that you can sometimes see, and one of those is for children or even wheelchair curling and things like that. Talk to me, Phil, if you would mind, about how well curling does as a family or an all-in sport.
Well, one of the things that I love about the sport is it really is truly inclusive. I've played against a family that was made, or a team that was made up of 4 generations of players. If the children are literally too small to get the stone all the way down to the other end of the ice, some curling rinks have a house that's halfway down. Others have hacks that you can move up into the center to kind of make the sheet shorter for the younger player. And then also, of course, you can have wheelchair competitors playing alongside able-bodied folks. And for those that aren't able to get down and slide out like that, they have special adaptive delivery devices to allow someone to throw a stone while they're standing up. And I mentioned that they curl in a wheelchair. We actually have Kevin Bai from the Kansas City Curling Club over there curling on sheet D.
So, Gwen, one of the most famous things about curling, of course, is that everybody goes, "Oh, it's the one with it's all the yelling," as we heard in that intro video. And we just heard the skip from Allmaker doing a little bit of yelling. What are some of the terms that the viewers may sometimes hear as we're listening in?
When the skip is wanting the sweepers to sweep, you will often hear them yell hurry or hard or yes or something that is very clear to the sweepers. Since there's a lot of activity going on the ice all at the same time, you need to make sure that your teammates know, yes, I want you to sweep, or no, don't sweep. So then it's like no or off, or something very definitive.
I would not recommend using a series of no and go.
That is correct.
You cannot tell the difference on the ice.
I shudder to think of how many times people have been on a bonspiel like here at Cedar Spiel with multiple sheets going all at the same time and everybody yelling. I remember one time where my front end partner and I we were sweeping for everything that we could, and we looked up at their skip and he's just holding his hands out like, "What are you doing?" So, "Well, we heard you." He's like, "That was the guy next door. Totally didn't tell you to do anything for you guys." So that kind of gets a little bit more difficult for people to pick up. Now that was an interesting shot there. What do you think that they were trying to do, Brian? Were they just trying to raise that, or were they trying to take it out?
I think that since they hit their own stone, they were trying to raise it or to run it back into the red rocks that were sitting behind it in order to remove one of them. However, the rock didn't quite curl quite enough, and so what happened is they caught it at an angle and pushed their own rock out.
Great, and that actually introduces some of the different curling terms and things like that. So you hear some people will call it a raise, some people will call it a run back. Is there a difference in those terms, or is it just where people kind of grow up and the terms that they hear?
Well, a raise can be a run back, but often with a run back, you're trying to hit another stone that's behind there. With a raise, you can just be actually trying to tap it up without hitting another rock with that raised rock.
Great explanation.
In the lower left-hand corner on the score, you can see there's circles next to each team. Those indicate how many stones are left in this end for that team.
And what does the hammer mean, Phil? I mean, I know, obviously, and you know, obviously.
The hammer is the last stone in an end. An end's like comparable to an inning in baseball. When a team scores in an end, they throw first the next end, so that the team that did not score has the hammer, which is the last stone in the next end. And why that's so important is it gives the team with hammer a very strong tactical advantage, because you can either spend the entire end setting up one good, perfect shot at the end, or if things aren't going the way you like, you can use the hammer to pretty much wreck whatever the other team has done to you in that end.
Now we just saw a shot of the skip and the vice skip for the Capital Curling Club talking. And sometimes in like Curling Night in America and the Nationals and things like that, there's a thing called thinking time. Is that ever at an event, like a smaller fun spiel like Cedar Spiel is, or does that tend to just be the more serious ones?
Thinking time is really for the most serious of tournaments, national level competitions, and obviously international competitions. At our level here, we're just playing more to have fun. There is an expectation that you keep the game moving, and it can get a little irritating sometimes when the other team just wants to talk through every shot and a game can turn out to be 3 hours long, and that keeps you out of the warm room longer than you'd like to be. But typically, most teams like to play 8 ends in about 2 hours. Obviously, on a Sunday after a long weekend of curling like this, I don't think they're going to be taking too much time because folks have a long drive home.
And that was one of the things we noticed right away at the beginning, is that both teams were really sending their first couple rocks down pretty quickly.
Yeah, typically it's
close. Yeah, it's good. That's some good end hard work right there.
Yeah, that's some heavy sweeping.
All right, so this is going to be the last rock for the Team Allmaker from Ak-Sar-Ben in Omaha. And currently, as we can see from the previous shot, red is currently sitting 2, it looks like. And so the Team Allmaker has to try to find a way to get closest to the button. So it looks like what they're trying to do is to just do a straight draw right to the 4-foot circle. And which is the 4-foot circle, Adrian?
Oh, put me on the spot there. I wasn't ready for it. The 4-foot circle is the darker circle where the vice skip for the Exarban Club has his broom. You can see that the button itself is that little white area, and then it goes the darker blue, and that's the 4-foot. And there's the white, which is the 8-foot, and the green, which is the 12-foot.
All right, so as we watch this rock come down, we'll see. Looks like it might be over curling. Maybe they might try.
That was interesting. They tried a takeout rather than a draw.
It just seemed like it over curled just a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they maybe could have tapped. So that's 2 red in that end. So 2 for Team Burrish from Capital City.
All right, while they set up for the next end, we're going to go to break, and you're watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Welcome back from break. You're watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. In the first end, we had Team Burrish put 2 up on the scoreboard, and as a result, they will be the ones that are throwing first rock, and that will be giving hammer, or the very last stone, in this end to Team Allmaker, who will be playing the blue stones.
We were chatting with Dan Burris last night, the skip of the Capital City team. He was telling us that typically when he plays on arena ice, he takes a more aggressive strategy rather than a lot harder hits, and doesn't really try to draw too much because of the variation in the ice. But I think that last end, they just all were a little bit heavy.
And that's, I think, the part of getting used to the ice, because it would have been brand new prepared this morning, so it would by definition been different than last night. Now, interesting question here. We see that Team Allmaker jumped on their stone, or started sweeping their stone almost right away. Why do some teams start right away, and then why do some teams wait until later on to start sweeping? Gwen, what's happening there?
As the lead released that stone, the front end, or the 2 people who were sweeping, when you've been curling for a long time, you can tell about how hard a stone is coming down the ice, and they immediately realized this is not a very heavy stone. And so they decided it needed to be swept in order to get it to be into play, and so that's what they did.
And just to remind everybody from that video that we watched originally for Curling Canada, whoops, is that you sweep to be able to keep the stone online. Yes. Whereas if you don't want it and you actually want the stone to curl, you don't sweep, or you don't really sweep as hard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. While we're waiting for the next shot, Phil, I just wanted to say that some really big news came out for Cedar Rapids curling this week. On behalf of the club, thank you, and to your group, especially Packy and others who put a really lot of hard work into this. And I'll let you, I'm not going to bury the lead, so I'm going to let you to announce it.
Well, very good. Let's see what happens with this stone here, and then looks like now they're struggling to get the upweight going.
That looks like a really nice draw. Came around 2 guards.
That's nice.
And almost right to the tee line for that shot from Molly from the Exarban team in Omaha.
And Adrian, thanks for bringing that up. Actually, USA Curling just announced last week that the 2021 USA Curling National Championships are going to be held right here in Cedar Rapids, hosted by the Cedar Rapids Curling Club. And we're very pleased to be looking forward to having some of the best players in the country here for a week of curling starting on February 6, 2021.
Okay, so that was a great shot because what that did is just basically followed the line in from the shot before and then removed that stone. So that leaves us, if I saw it correctly, with Team Burish sitting 1 in the house.
And this is now Kaylee Sampson, who throws second rocks for the Team Allmaker from Exarban. He's probably going to try to follow that rock down and take the red Capital City rock out.
This is only Kaylee's second year of curling. And it looks like she's picked it up pretty quick.
Yes, it
does.
That's
a great shot.
They're sweeping pretty hard in order to try to get by those guards and hit that rock with enough speed in order to remove it as far as possible.
And then you can also see the skip for the other team trying to get it to pass through the back of the house. That way it's not picking up any points as well.
Now another shot, almost the exact same shot for Phil Engen, who is curling with the team from Capital City in Bismarck, but is actually from Cedar Rapids.
Caught a little nick there and just kind of set themselves up for a nice little guard, it seems.
Gwen, you know Phil pretty well, don't you?
I do know Phil pretty well, yeah. We happen to be married.
Did you both curl before you got together?
We did, actually, before we knew each other, yes. We both grew up in Canada, and so I curled for several years when I was a youth in high school, and he curled as well in his high school, although we never played against each other.
Wow, look at that. It just snuck by that high stone.
It did.
That was a really great throw.
Shot.
Okay, so now we're looking at the third, or the vice skip stones. Oh, we've got it. Back to the replay.
Missed the high guard.
Yep,
slid past the guard. What that's just a fantastic shot. So talk to me about the strategy that would be in place here for Team Burish. What do you think they're trying to do?
I believe he's trying to come and to hit this top stone that's in the top 8 foot.
I think he's drawing in. That's not the best move. They're trying to follow Phil in on the exact same shot.
Got a little tick off of the one and angled it actually pretty much straight back. You can see he's a little pleased with that little tick off of that guard.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Sometimes.
Okay, so what's the Exarban rink here asking for? Because he is kind of standing out a little bit towards the edge of the 12 foot.
Yeah, it looks like he's asking his third Nick Swirsek in order to draw around those that red guard that's up there, probably to try to get to the top of the 4 foot.
Just going to drag it in to that 4 foot line.
Well, what happened is that it curled too much and it actually hit in the red Capital City stone. So as you can see, this rock kind of curled too much. I think they were hoping that it would over curl, which is why they weren't sweeping it. And it pushed the red rock into the 4 foot. Looked like he had really good weight though for that draw.
Okay, so this is the last stone for the vice skip here for Capital. What's the plan?
She was kind of indicating that she wanted T-line weight. So it looks like they're trying to draw through or either come and tap that red one that's in the top of the house back just a little bit.
Okay, sweepers are on.
Probably trying to sweep for line here to make sure that it hits this stone right where they want it to. That's a really nice shot. That was exactly the weight that she called, and he threw just a great shot right there.
This puts Team Burrish up 2, and importantly, both of those red stones that are in the 4-foot line are also well guarded by other stones.
Now, when you say well guarded, Phil, what do you mean by that?
Well, a guard is a stone that's up higher toward the person that's throwing. And basically, the stone becomes an obstacle that you need to get around to hit the stone that you're after. It's hitting that guard right now. Nope, he was hoping for to hit and roll on that red one, and he didn't quite get it. But guards can present a problem because in order to curl around it, you can't be going fast enough to hit the stone out because the stone won't curl when it's going fast. So you have to balance whether you want to raise the guard and knock out the stone or try and get around the guard and hit up next to it, hopefully with enough force to move it.
So what we just saw on the monitor there was some discussion between the Vice and the Skip for Team Burrish. Gwen, if you were having that discussion, what do you think you're trying to do here?
I think they were just trying to decide on the line that they wanted. I saw him, move the broom just a little bit. I think they kind of talked about, well, how much do we think it's going to curl here? And they're trying to throw a guard probably right on top of that rock that's in the 4-foot. So as Phil was saying, an obstacle to put in the way so that it makes it more difficult for Team Allmaker to remove either of the 2 red rocks that are in the 4-foot area right now.
Now, would you want to put that outside the house or just tucked inside so it's scoring a little bit?
Short, it would be the preferred. That's a really nice place actually for that stone to be. Makes a run back difficult. You'd have to make a double, and the blue rock that hits that top red rock is not going to be out counting some of those other red rocks that are back there.
So I think I just heard the Skip for Allmaker just say that they were going to try and take out that high guard. Would the purpose of that be to set up their second shot? Or would it be to just kind of to play it and if they could break up that little triumvirate of red there?
If you're having difficulty trying to get a rock into position, you need to try to remove the guards so that you can give yourself at least a shot on your last in order to score, or if you have to, in order to cut the other team down to take less.
Well, and every good skip's always thinking about the very last stone. And in this case, they need to do some housekeeping to set up that last stone because they're not getting any points on this unless they can clean out some of that red.
Somehow I'm not thinking that's what they're doing.
No, I think it curled a lot more than they expected. We haven't really seen very many stones come down on that side of the sheet. And so my guess is that they were not really sure on where to put the broom in order to make that tap back or to move that blue guard that's kind of causing them some problems at the moment.
The Cedar Rapids Curling Ice Crew has been working on this ice for about 4 or 5 days now, and they've done a really great job of leveling out most of the sheets. And also, we're getting quite a bit of swing or curl because of the way it's pebbled, and we just don't ordinarily see that in this rink. But those stones are swinging 6 feet either direction today.
Here comes the last rock for Team Burrish from Capital City, and it looks like they're probably just playing another guard since they are currently lying at least 2. I'm not sure about that blue rock in the back. Yes, they are lying just 2.
So basically at this point, if you're Team Allmaker, what are you trying to do? I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, where are they going to go?
You got to control the damage at this point.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean they can try to score, but at least avoid getting down 4 coming into the third end.
Right, and we just heard the all-maker skip saying it's not insurmountable. I mean, that's one of the great things is that you really can win back points in the next end, provided things start, to go your way. And that's the the attitude that a lot of recreational curlers have is that I'll just make it up in the next end.
You got to hold it together though, mentally and emotionally, to do that. If the team starts to turn on each other, that's poison, and one big end could be the end of the game for you. They did not get the damage control they were looking for.
No, so they did end up giving up 2. So Team Burish took 2 in that end, or stole 2 in that end as well.
And that's the end of our, that's the end of the second end. And we're going to head out to break now. And you are watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Welcome back to curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. One of the things, Phil, that we've talked about so far in this game is that the fact that the Cedar Rapids curling curls on what's called arena ice. And as a result, there are not only curling lines, but also hockey lines. Could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, Gwen used the term hog line before. That red line that you just saw their lead crossover is the hog line. You have to let go of the stone before you cross that red line. That blue line in curling means nothing. That's for hockey. And now it's crossing over the hog line on the other side of the end. And as Gwen was saying, it's now in play because it got across that red line that you can see at the top of the screen.
So just to kind of confirm, there's 2 red lines in curling. If I'm going one direction, I must have released the stone by the time before I get to the first one, but the stone isn't actually in play until it crosses the second one, the one closest to the house.
That's right.
Perfect.
And if you throw it too light, you don't get across. Most curlers call that hogging a stone.
And what happens then?
Well, like Gwen said, you kick the stone out, it's not in play.
So no mulligans or anything like that?
No.
Okay, now Gwen, we saw that the Bursch skip here started sweeping, but after the stone crossed the middle of the house. Is that part of the rules? Like he can't begin to sweep until before that, or?
That is correct. The opposing skip cannot try to sweep the rock out until it crosses what's called the T line, which is the line that cuts through the middle of the house. So we just watched Chris Geiger, who's the lead, throw his second rock in this third end. And we're likely to see the opposing skip come and sweep this rock through the house as well.
So one of the things that people don't understand is that as the pebbling is worn down, both by the rocks traveling over and the sweeping, stones will often pick up speed. So it's up to the skip to be able to adjust, you know, what they're calling, the weight they want to call for, and things like that. Because we've seen now a couple stones, one from each side, being flashed or sent all the way through the house. So now it becomes a little bit more of, okay, now we're down one stone each. How do we make what we want to have happen?
And then players have to adjust their weight and say, well, I need to pull back just a little bit because it's obviously the ice is getting a little bit quicker or speeding up. And then we need to adjust so that we don't throw our rocks through the house.
Well, and it becomes difficult too if you have a shot to the outside of the sheet because there's not a lot of sweeping that occurs like there is in the middle of the sheet. Frost tends to build up there. And you get out of that frost and you can just put the brakes on a stone in a hurry. So it's difficult to throw one on the outside. If you throw hard, then you want the exact same weight, but you're in the middle of the sheet now, and it's just going to keep on going and not stop.
We see a takeout now from Phil Engen, who's throwing second rocks for the team from Capital City.
Now, Gwen, concept of the free guard, all right? First 4 stones are allowed. First 5 stones. See, I gotta read up on the rule book again. The first 5 stones are allowed to be in play, and if they're taken out outside of the house, they are replaced, and the one that took it out is taken out. And I've completely butchered that explanation. So if you wouldn't mind making it make more sense to everybody, I would really be appreciative.
So the first 5 stones that come into play, if they are in front of the house, so all of the circles, so they're between the hog line and the front of the house, they cannot be removed from play. So you can't play a takeout on those rocks until after the 5th stone is thrown in the end. They can be moved around though, so you can move them into the house, you can move them off to the side. As long as they are not taken out of play, they are allowed to stay on the sheet. But yes, if one is accidentally removed, it is replaced, and the offending stone that removed it is taken out of play.
All right, here comes Phil Engen's second shot. I'm sorry, Phil, I almost talked about.
Well, I was just going to say let's see how Phil Stone does here. It's just going to park down and sit up high as a guard. The World Curling Federation and USA Curling just last year changed the free guard stone rule to from 4 to 5. Of course, the reason that rule exists is because teams were getting so good that no matter where someone put a stone, somebody else would come by and be able to knock it out at a time. You ended up with games where every end was a blank. And so the rules were changed to allow people to put some guards up there that have to stick around for a while and give you a place to hide so that you get more exciting play.
So teams would blank on purpose?
Almost certainly.
So what would be the purpose of that then?
Well, when you have hammer, ideally you want to get 2 points at least. If you only get 1 point when you have hammer, you're giving the hammer back to the other team. They get 1, and you just get locked into a battle of 1 point scores going back and forth. If you're in a situation where you are only going to get 1, you may want to tactically just clear the house out so that you keep the hammer, start over with that hammer again in the next end, and hopefully set something up, make something happen.
Okay, so here comes the vice skip, or actually the skip throwing vice skip stones for Capital City, Dan Burish. There's only 1 Capital City stone in the house. Gwen, what do you think they're trying to do?
I think he's just trying to come around this guard that was placed here earlier. Does look like he is a little bit light on that. Probably as he's seen several stones come down and come through the house, he just pulled his weight back a little bit, thinking that it was getting a little bit speedier, but just kind of pulled a little bit too much maybe. So now we're going to see the Xarban team, and we're going to see Nick Swirsek probably come and maybe try to hit this rock and then roll behind cover. And that was a nice hit from Nick.
So it looks like Team Burish is basically looking to do the exact same thing, kind of remove that stone.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of play down the center and nothing really on the wings. like on the outside of the lines, to curl in around these the guards that are sitting there. Is that done on purpose? Like, do skips really kind of stay away from the outer edges because, as Phil was mentioning earlier, of the frost buildup, or do they just become more comfortable being able to read the center?
I don't think that they're necessarily staying away from the wings. It's hard to tell still that it's early in the game. So at the moment, the team from Capital City, I believe, is just trying to keep as few rocks at play as possible since they are up 4-0. Since that red rock is only just a biter, it looks like the Exarban team is trying to draw around to see if they could bury a stone, but unfortunately Nick's rock is just a little bit too heavy.
You may have noticed that Team Allmaker is showing a little bit of a sense of humor. They're wearing T-shirts. They ordered with their team name, Total Sheet Show. That's the name of their team that they use when they're curling in social events like this. They actually, just last year, made it to the finals at Mankato 5 and under, which is for curlers who have been playing less than 5 years. So even though they haven't been playing long, they have really dove into the whole sport.
Here comes the first fourth rock throws from Michelle Wagner, who I believe is also just trying to draw around these center guards. Stone didn't seem to curl very much, so it is wide open for the team from Exarban to try to hit and roll behind those two cards that are up there.
So Phil, we talk about curling being a social sport. How often, when in a situation like this, I mean, we can see here the vice and the vice skip having a little chuckle as they're waiting. How often will the teams engage amongst themselves, like between each other?
Oh, very often. You start conversations out there on the ice. Some of these teams have played against each other in multiple tournaments throughout the years. Certainly at this point in a Bonspiel, we had a party out in the warm room last night, and people were moving around from table to table talking to each other. So they probably already are acquainted with each other before they even get on the ice. And then, of course, after the game is over, typically one is expected to broom stack with the opposing team, which is having a beer or any kind of beverage after the game to just talk about curling or talk about what you do for a living and just get to know folks. Oh, I don't think he's going to like that.
No, he called the sweepers off pretty early. You saw that it was curling a little bit early, and they weren't going to be able to hold it. And so instead of tiring them out, he called them off. He said, "Well, you're never gonna be able to hold it." So, unfortunately, missed the takeout and the roll. The weight looked really good though for what he wanted. It just kind of moved a little bit too much for him.
So I think if I read it correctly, Team Burrish is going to try and bring their stone and draw it down so it's tucked in behind the two red guards there on the side, because that would leave them sitting 3.
Yes, it would. So this is the last rock on the way from Michelle Wagner. They're sweeping for line here to try to get it by. Oh, looks like a very nice stone.
Yes, indeed. Adrian, you mentioned this being a social tournament. It is just more for fun and to stay in practice in the summer months while we're off season from curling. A lot of teams have uniforms or team T-shirts. Other folks just come and play what they have, and that's why there's so many different variations on what people are wearing out there today.
So we just heard there from the Allmaker skip that they just want to get their one and get themselves back in the game, because if they don't pick up anything here, then they're down 7, and that's tough.
So this is the last one on the way from Nick Allmaker, the skip, and he's trying to draw down to the red rock that's sitting in the back of the 4-foot.
He's coming in pretty fast. I'm a little concerned it's not going to get over.
He's got it.
Yeah, but then it rolled out. Still a point for red.
Looks like red took one.
All right, so that is Team Burrish with 5, Allmakers 0 at the end of the third end. We are now going to head out to break. You're watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Welcome back to curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Something that's happened in the last couple ends here has been called stealing an end. Gwen, would you mind explaining to the viewers what stealing an end is?
Sure. So the team that does not have the last rock or the hammer, as Phil talked about earlier, ends up being the team that takes the points. So the team from Capital City, or Team Burrish, has taken all 5 points so far. So in the first end, they took 2. In the second end, they took 2. And now in the third end, they took 1, all the while not having the hammer or last rock. And that is what we call stealing, since they probably shouldn't have, been able to take those rocks, so they stole them away from the other team.
Interesting thing about curling is that on the sides of each sheet are black lines that denote the side of the sheet, and if the stone is touching that, it cannot be continued to play. They have to take it out. But at the bottom end, we just saw with Team Burrish's first stone, it's actually crossed the back line, but not fully. Now it is still considered to be in play. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. So that rock has to completely cross and be all the way off of the field of the curling sheet in order to be considered out of play. So if it's touching that back line at all, even if it's not touching the house, it is still considered to be in play.
So we can see it there on the right-hand side. It's not touching the it's not touching the house or any of the circles in it in any form, but it's still within the field of play because it's still touching the back line.
That's right.
Those stones that are back there hiding like that drive me crazy when I'm skipping, because they forget they're there, in all honesty, and I end up tripping over them sometimes.
So that was a nice takeout from the lead from Capital City, from Chris Geiger.
So you can see here that the stone's coming in, and then just pushes that stone out of the way.
They swept it hard in order to keep it on line to just catch a corner of it. And here's the last stone from Molly O'Brien.
So that's the sweepers begin to sweep a little bit, and then they really kind of dug in, and now they're really digging in hard to get it across that red line. That's the hog line I've referred to a couple times. Now that stone is in play.
And it's a nice guard, so hopefully they'll be able to use that in this end. That stone, as we've talked about earlier, cannot be removed for another couple of stones yet.
been a busy weekend here at the Ice Arena. Cedar Rapids Curling hosted a fundraiser for United Way on Friday. That was a great success. Then this tournament started Saturday night. We have, Friday night. We have 22 teams that are really across the country. We have teams from as far away as Maine and New Jersey. And last night I also met Ko Yang, who is actually competing from Taiwan. She immigrated to the United States through Canada and started curling in Kansas City and is coming up here to get some extra practice because she wants to be on the Taiwanese women's team and the Taiwanese mixed team. It was a really delightful conversation I had with her last night.
That's fantastic how like the roads that people meet on can just come from anywhere. You know, like you said, she came from Taiwan through Canada and now is curling out of Kansas City, but she's here in Cedar Rapids to curl and get experience. And that's the great thing about broom stacking is, you know, if that wasn't a thing, you probably never would have had that conversation.
That's exactly right. I only knew that because I was sitting down chatting with her after a game. And in fact, we have over 6 teams here that are made up of players from different clubs from around the country. The way that works is they just called and said, we want to play on a team, but I can't put a full one together because it's the middle of the summer. And some of them put together teams themselves, and also Kerry Kozak, who runs Cedar Spiel, would put the teams together as well.
So here we can see that the skip has called for a takeout on this guard, and this is the 6th rock of the end, and so they are able to do that. And so he's asked for this guard to be taken off because he knows that that might be a potential guard or something to help the other team to be able to hide behind.
Kaylee Sampson comes out of the hack. She's using a stabilizer, which is a handheld device that helps you keep your balance as you come out of a hack. Those are completely legal, and you see them quite a bit at the social level. As one moves up the level of competition, though, most players use a broom to hold their balance, only because they may want to jump up and be able to use their broom quickly.
So that stone from Team Allmakers in the house. Gwen, you're the skip. You know, the beginning of the vice skip stones. Are you going to try and remove it, or are you just going to try and curl in behind it and use it?
I believe that he's going to try to hit it and remove it. And you kind of saw him there just briefly tap his nose. He would like to hit this rock on the nose. So then he leaves his rock in play and able to be used later on in the end.
But this couldn't that just create a scenario where each team just removes the stone from the team?
Well, if that rock had hit it on the nose, he would have been actually in the guard zone. So my guess is the other team wouldn't have hit it. They would have probably tried to come around. Just curled just a little bit too much, and so it hit it and rolled in on the other side. But it's still a really, really good shot for Team Burish, and Team Allmaker is going to have to either draw around that rock or try to remove it. My guess is that they'll probably try to draw around and use it as a guard.
I wouldn't be surprised if Team Burish starts keeping the house really clean, just trying to keep as many rocks as possible, red or blue, out, so that, I mean, they jumped up 5 in 3 ends. They don't want to create an opportunity where Team Allmaker could get a big end with a lot of points, and the way big ends happen is when you have a lot of stones cluttering up the house.
Yep, that's true. That's probably what their strategy is going to be from this point on, is to try to keep the game as clean as possible.
So that one's actually moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, the last stone from Dan is probably a takeout on this Allmaker stone at the top of the house. Very nice shot. Now what's happened is he's actually separated his rock, so it makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, in order to make a double.
And here is that takeout as we were just talking about. Moves in quickly and then removes that stone. And then you can see it's still kind of rolling by itself over and like you said, splitting the house or separating them to make it even more difficult for Team Allmaker.
And Dan Burish is, actually likes a good takeout game. I think that's his probably best comfort zone. So Team Allmaker is going to be struggling to get back in this game.
just a little bit too heavy there.
But they did leave it in play at least, so that's good. And it is partially behind the red stone at the top of the ring. So
I think Dan's telling her that they're just sitting one right now. One thing that you really can't appreciate until you're down in the hack is how difficult it is to keep perspective on exactly where the stones are. Sometimes, you know, this curling sheet's 148 feet long, and when you're down in the hack, sometimes stones look like they're right next to each other, and then when you get on them, they're 10, 15 feet apart.
That's a great point, and it's something that the new curlers really struggle with. And an interesting thing about the rules too, though, is that as the front end, you know, the first and second, you're really not allowed to be down in the house taking a look. You just have to have that trust in your vice and in your skip that they know what they're doing. And that for a lot of people is part of the strategy that comes to it.
this is a great tap from Michelle as she comes down and she just taps her own rock. It's a great weight control in order to not push the rock too far, but just enough to keep it in, you know, still shot rock and in a better position.
Is Red sitting 2 right now?
I think they are, actually.
Right now,
just
if you draw down harder for them to take out this zone. So, T-line draw.
So there, you just heard it from the skip.
The side that goes a little bit slower too, so that's a little help for us.
So that they're going for the T-line draw. Gwen, would you be able to explain what that means again? Because I know you referred back to it, or you referred to it, sorry, earlier in the first end. What does that mean, just to remind people?
So the Team Burrish rock is sitting just behind the T-line. So what he's trying to do is trying to draw right down to that red rock that's just right on the back of the button or the back of the T-line and freeze to it, which would make it very, very difficult to remove and would probably leave him line shot. If he's a little bit heavy, it's okay. He can tap it, and that's okay too. So we'll watch as this rock comes in and see where it stops. Looks like he's a little bit light.
Drag it in, yeah.
So he didn't quite make it, but he did leave it at least in a position that is usable. He can promote it or raise it later, and there is still room to come around from the other side. So we can see they're sweeping pretty hard in order to try to get it down.
And here comes the third out as well now.
Just not quite enough weight on that shot. The line looked really good though.
So
looks like
sorry, go ahead.
Yep, looks like Team Burrish is going to play pretty much the same shot that Michelle played on her last stone, and they're just going to try to promote or raise that red rock that is in the top of the 12-foot back and then end up lying 2. So this is Michelle's last rock in this end, in the 4th end.
One concern I would have if I were Michelle is hitting that blue stone back and jamming up on the red that's in the 4-foot. She really needs to hit that to the left side of the stone and not straight on, because she'll end up either jamming up or knocking out that other red stone. She is just coasting in to guard it.
Close sweepers going.
Yep. Just
there's that little raise.
A little raise. So now Team Burrish is lying 2 again in this end as Team Allmaker goes to make their last shot.
So really, what were the options there for Team Allmaker? What do they got?
They can play the raise on their own rock, which is actually in a really good position to raise back up onto the Team Burrish stone that is on the button. That probably is their best. That's their best option.
That's going to be the highest percentage shot. Nick is struggling on his draw weight a little bit. There's a little more of a forgiving variation on weight with that raise that you're talking about.
So it looks like it's coming in pretty heavy.
Looks like it needs to curl maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Now
there you go.
slow down. Contain the damage a little bit, but looks like Red stole another one.
Looks like Red stole one more.
All right, that is the end of the fourth end and the A event final at Cedar Spiel, brought to you by Cedar Rapids Curling Club. You're watching Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
All right, welcome back to the start of the fifth end of the A event final at Cedar Spiel here in Cedar Rapids, brought to you on Mediacom MC22. Phil, an event like this and an event like the United Way curling event that Cedar Rapids Curling sponsored on Friday aren't done by one or two people. There's a lot of people that need to be involved. Would you like to take a moment and talk about that?
Well, sure. I mean, Kerry Kozak and the Cedar Spiel Committee have really done a fantastic job of organizing lodging for all of these players, making sure we have good food here. The arena's been very helpful to us and letting us kind of disrupt things a little bit here. And so we're very grateful for that. And then also Lon Pepper and Murray Marple and the rest of the ice crew have just done a phenomenal job. They're here late at night, first thing in the morning, really making this ice the best it possibly could be. There goes that fourth stolen point up, the third stolen point.
So just to remind viewers, stolen point means that if you have the hammer, which you can see on the TV there, that Allmaker's got a little icon of a hammer, that means that they have the last stone. So they really should be the team that's picking up the point for the end. So if you steal at that point, that means that you did not have hammer, then really the point. Points. As has happened a couple times in this game.
Looks like Molly O'Brien, who just threw that stone through. He was getting a little bit frustrated because it's typically you want to leave it well short of the house if you're in the front end like that. Usually something is not going right if you throw it through like that.
Especially when if you're down, you typically want to try to leave as many rocks in front of the house, especially at the beginning of the end, that you can either promote or use later, or to hide behind, or to use as a guard to draw around.
If you have a couple stones sitting in the wide open like that, there's just no way to generate some offense.
Yes, that is true. So Nick's calling for another guard, and so Molly will try to pull back the weight a little bit and see if she can get a guard up front for them to use in the end.
Oh, I think she just said she's heavy again.
And that is one of those things as the game goes on. We've talked about this before. The ice does speed up a little bit.
Yes, it does.
Most often it does. Sometimes if you're typically not in an arena because we have such a big room here, but if you're in a dedicated club that has a small ice area, just people breathing and shouting in the room over the course of a game can create humidity that actually slows the ice down. I think Molly's happy with that shot, though.
Yeah, that one's at least in the rings, and so they're could potentially use it. We'll see if Phil Engen can remove this rock for Team Burish.
He's got quite the concentration. Boy, that's coming in like a rocket.
He did exactly what he was asked to do. Looking pretty pleased with himself.
Yep, that was a nice solid hit from Phil. Yep.
Here comes with a hard hit.
Good shot. The sweepers didn't even hardly have to brush it. So sweepers like that when they don't have to work so hard all the time.
Sweepers really like that one.
Yeah.
Especially on Sunday afternoon after a long weekend of curling.
Exactly.
All right, here comes the first stone for the second of Team Burish, and that is
Kaylee Sampson is throwing for Team Allmaker.
Whoops, my mistake.
Yep. That's a really nice draw weight. That came down just past the tee line that we were talking about earlier. And now they're playing off to the wings and trying to see maybe if they can generate a mistake from Team Burish.
Just change this one. Never do that.
Phil doesn't have the pressure.
There's a lot of curl on that side of the sheet, and just kind of over curled, even with all the sweeping.
I don't think I've ever seen Phil angry. Does it ever happen?
Not very often.
I don't believe they've been over on that left side of the sheet either, so the ice may be doing a little something that this kid just didn't pick up on.
Now Team Allmaker is trying to capitalize on that miss and maybe try to draw in around and see if they can set something up in this end.
Yeah, I'm concerned they got too much postage on that. Oh, no, it's going to come in nicely.
It's going to sit nicely behind that high guard there, too.
Yeah, that's a very nice draw.
The only downside of being that deep in the house is that you just create a backstop for the other team, and they can just follow your exact same line and sit on top of your own stone.
Or just give it a little tap and move it back out of play. Looks like they're playing a takeout on the one on the 12-foot out in the wings.
They probably were hoping for a roll in underneath. The opposite direction.
Here comes that replay on that takeout as they're sweeping, but they weren't able to hold the line, and the rock just flipped out.
The red one.
The red one, yep, just flipped out at the end. Now we see Nick Swersek with his first rock of the end.
That blue stone in the back of the house is sitting shut right now, so if they can cover it up, they might be able to get some offense going.
That's going to tick.
Yep, did not want to hit that. Now that blue stone in back is sitting out in the open. But it doesn't look like they're going for a takeout. They're going for the high one, the high blue one.
Yep, the rock that's shot looks like they're going to go for that one. As Dan gets ready to deliver his last rock of this end. I just wanted to bring to people's attention that we've seen Dan be the skip in the house for the whole game, but he throws the third rocks, and Michelle throws last rocks or fourth stones on this particular team. And that is perfectly acceptable and fine to do. You don't have to, if you skip the game, you don't have to throw last rock. You can choose to throw in whatever order that you want to.
Now, what would be some of the decision making behind that strategy?
Oh, we're going to watch that takeout again here.
So
and Michelle sweeping.
That's a
pretty
great
hard.
sweeping to get that stone out.
Great sweeping to get that stone out. So some of the reasons that a team might choose to change their lineup is that you may have a thrower who is very, very strong at takeouts or draws and is just a better thrower, but doesn't like to call the game, or maybe somebody else is better at reading the ice to see, be able to tell the weight or the amount of curl in the sheet, or maybe some players aren't physically as capable of throwing the rocks and so will choose to throw at a different position. Such as myself, for example, I have a difficult time in throwing takeouts since I damaged my knees when I was younger, and so I prefer to throw lead. It just all depends on the team and what their dynamics are and what they want to do, but you can throw in any particular order. Just because somebody skips or calls the game doesn't mean they have to throw the last rock.
Okay, so we can see that they've set up for the shot.
You're looking at a double here. They're going to come in pretty hard and try and take out both those back blue ones. They're positioned about right. If they nose that top blue one, both of them are going.
Looks like they're waiting for it to curl a little bit.
It's not coming over. Yeah, they wanted to nose that blue one, not hit it on the corner like that.
So you see Team Allmaker looks like they're trying to set up a guard to take that option away again.
Yeah, they're trying to generate some offense here because it's hard to tell whether the blue or the red rock is at the top of the 12-foot is actually shot. But if they're able to guard those back rocks, then they could potentially play a hit on that top red one for their last rock and maybe be able to score a multiple end.
Well, that raises the interesting question of what happens then if it doesn't pass the eye test. You look and they seem to be tied. Phil, how would you what are some of the ways that clubs have to be able to break that tie?
Most curling clubs have a measuring device that uses a micrometer. It's a stainless steel, and you put it down and you measure two stones physically. Here at Cedar Rapids Curling, we use a laser, and you have to do the air quotes when you say laser. But we have a laser that sits that you put into the pin, the hole in the center of the house, and then you can get a digital reading on which one's closer.
And what happens if they're still tied?
It's blank. They need to slow down here. That's perfect.
That's a nice shot. That is a very, very nice shot. Good draw. Works as a guard and is still shot rock.
That's right.
You can see Michelle now. She's kind of looking back and forth between the blue rock and the red rock at the top of the house. She's trying to decide which one is second shot. Here comes that really, really nice draw. Really nice draw. You can see them sweeping, trying to make sure that they get shot out of this rock. Good draw.
All three of them working together like that. That's just so impressive.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dan and Michelle are thinking about maybe just letting them have one, because that certainly wouldn't be the end of the world with the score the way it is to take the hammer back by just giving Team Allmaker 1 point. This is Dan and Michelle's 48th Bonspiel together. Dan told us last night that they've driven over 33,000 miles traveling for curling. I hope it's okay that I disclose that he also told us that Michelle's only driven for about 100 miles.
Yeah.
Well, a good co-driver could be invaluable. Help choose radio stations, get snacks.
That's true.
So we got, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We've got a little bit of a picture there of the scoring and the scoreboard. Phil, you actually built that framing for that. Could you maybe take a second here and explain how the scoring works?
Sure. Well, the scoring you see on a national level competition, like USCA officially sanctioned events, the scoreboard's like a baseball scoreboard, where the numbers in black there would be the inning, and then you'd have ones and zeros or twos and zeros to indicate what the score is. Most curling clubs use that format of a scoreboard, where the score is actually the black numbers in the middle, and you hang the end in which you scored the point above or below what the score is. It's horribly complicating, are complicated, and usually takes people quite a few examples to fully understand.
Here's Michelle's last stone on the way, and it looks like after some discussion, they've decided that what they feel that their best option is to draw around that top red one and the blue one and see if they can get shot rock on the 4-foot. Looks like they're going to have to sweep pretty hard in order to get it by. Nope, didn't quite. So Team Allmaker is still lying one, although it's not in question anymore about whether that red rock or the blue rock is second shot, since they've tapped the red one up to be second shot.
Now Nick's got a good chance to put some points up on the board for Team Allmaker.
And you can see them when we get there talking about it. Well, we can see them. You can't see them on the phone. You can see the other event finals going in the background, the B and C, and the D event finals going on. Vice and the Skip for Allmaker are really having a discussion on this, trying to figure out what they want to do. What would be some of the options that they could have? So you can see here, like, they are sitting stone.
They are. The blue is currently the shot rock. It looks like what they've decided to do is go out pretty wide and see if they can draw around to be second shot. So. Nope.
I think he changed his mind halfway down.
I think he changed his mind partway down.
Yeah, things look a little different once you get 100 feet away from him.
They do.
So we're going to draw to the 8-foot over on the side. Tee line. Draw to the 8-foot over on the side. Tee line. Should be pretty fast down this path, so if I'm light, feel free to sweep it. If it goes through, we'll still score one. But it should take away anything that raises them. There's no shot for 3 or 4. This is all we have. The cold draw.
Basically, he's just got to get his stone entirely in the white 8-foot circle, and he'll pick up 2 points.
It was a really nice discussion that he shared with his front end sweepers, which is really important for the skip or the last rock thrower to let the sweepers know this is what we need to do. This is where you need to put the rock. And
get on it.
Oh, it's got to get in there. It's got to get in there. That's unfortunate, but that's
comes up a little bit short, but blue. But team from Omaha scored 1 point in that end.
All right, you're watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Welcome back to curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. This is the beginning of the 6th end with Team Burish up 6-1.
That's a very nice stone from Molly as she draws down to have a really, really nice tight guard in the front of the house. That's a really, really nice guard from Molly for her first stone of the 6th end.
You know, even though Team Allmaker only got that 1 point, sometimes that can be the boost that you need that shakes you out of whatever mindset is going on. Once you know what's possible to score against a team, then you get the confidence to actually start putting more points up on the board. You know, Glenn, you were talking before the break about the communication between the skip and the front end, the first 2 throwers. You really can't say enough about that. Curling is truly a team sport, and no one player can win a game, but having a player that's not on the same page as the rest of the team can really start to send the team spiraling down on problems. And it is sometimes difficult to understand exactly what the skip's asking you to do.
Yeah, I thought that he did a great job of explaining what their options were, especially since, as we talked about earlier, the front end typically doesn't come down and talk with the skip and the vice when they're discussing the last shots of the game. And so they're standing down there not really knowing exactly what's going on. So
just had a little bit of a fall on the ice. Looks like everyone's okay.
Everybody should be good.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was tripping over a stone. It wasn't even the ice. Oh. So. Fortunately, he's up and in the hack and ready to go.
Well, good. A little bit of a laugh there from Chris.
Yeah, he's smiling. He's all good.
Yeah. 2 very nice guards from Molly O'Brien in the beginning of this end.
Yeah, he's probably hoping everyone's going to stop looking at him here.
So since those 2 stones from Molly can't be removed, it looks like Team Burish is drawing down to the top of the 12-foot probably. Yep, and a nice stone from Chris.
I know there's still plenty of game left to play, but I really do think Team Allmaker needs to start getting a little more aggressive and getting some more stones in the game. And that's tough to do because Dan Burris loves to throw those takeouts.
And it could be a change in strategy too. You know, it's tough to change course mid-race as it is, you know. But this seems to be going for a raise here. You can see that Allmaker just nudged one of theirs a little bit deeper into the house, so now they're sitting.
Yes.
Yep.
With 2 guards out front. So here we can see that little tap up raise and nice weight control on this stone to raise this rock back to the top of the 8-foot.
Dan just called for hack weight, which is a heavier throw. Phil certainly is able to throw some up weight.
I'm not going to ask him to make any comment right now because I should jinx another one.
Zork's curling pretty hard though.
I'm going to wreck on the guard.
So I don't know if viewers saw it, the fact that the blue stone there just touched the black line means that it's automatically out of play. And as you can see that the skip for Team Burish just removed it. It's not allowed to continue to be there because once it touches that black line, especially on the sides, out it comes. The only time it's different is in the back of the house where as long as it's still touching the black line, even if 99% of it is over, then it still stays in.
Looks like Kaylee has some curling stone earrings on this one.
Just playing a come around the top guard.
It's a great shot.
Nice
that
stone,
is a nice
weight.
shot. It's tucked in underneath that red guard that's out of the house. You can't see it in the screen right now, but yeah, there you can have a good look at it. That stone's going to be tough to get to.
Not just that, but watching here on the replay, we can see that it splits the 2 at the top. Just slides right past that one. And then sits in nicely. Now you can see here another takeout weight from Phil Engen.
I think what Dan's trying to do is basically clean up those guards.
He's trying to clean up those guards, yep. Unfortunately.
Open up that blue one so they can get to it on the next rock.
I'd rather it be hog than heavy.
Here's that takeout of that guard again.
Would have been a bonus if he nosed it just a little more. Caught a piece of that blue stone that's in the house.
Nick Swersek's first stone of the 6th end.
Based on that weight, I think he's probably trying to throw a guard.
I think he's going to jam up. Oh, I think he's trying to draw in. Nope. He's going to wreck on the guards.
That's not bad though, because it makes it very, very difficult for Team Burrish to be able to use either of those guards in order to run back onto their own, onto the Allmaker rocks that are in the house.
And you can see them having that discussion here. So Gwen, you're a skip. What are you thinking here?
Well, I think that he's probably going to try to throw some, I would say, relatively big weight and see if he can catch the corner of that red guard and see how many of them that he can spill to open up some of these rocks. Probably the most important one to open up would to be the one that's sitting on the 4-foot right now. See if he can give himself a shot for that, to get to that stone.
So you wouldn't try and draw directly down to it then?
Not at this point, and especially since you're up by 5 points. You know, if you try to draw down to it, you're just leaving the other team the ability to use a whole bunch of other rocks in order to steal, which of course is what Allmaker is trying to do, trying to steal in this end. And they've actually done a really nice job of setting this end up so far.
Michelle's not giving very much ice on this hold, so I think he's coming in with some pretty good weight.
Yep, I would think that he's probably going to be.
All right, one sweeper's on.
That was
spectacular.
Indeed.
Can we see a replay on that one?
I don't think he touched a stone. And he's okay too.
It didn't look like he touched a stone. I don't know. Oh,
he did touch one.
He did touch the blue.
And he lost a shoe.
Of course, we are laughing because we know Phil quite well and we know he's not hurt.
He did touch the blue rock a little bit, but since that rock was stationary, all you have to do is tap it back into position.
Now we're back into it. And of course, especially at this level, when you do touch a stone like that, it's called burning it. And almost always, it's up to the opposing team's vice skip to decide what to do about it. And almost always, they just put it back where they think it was. And that was a pretty nice raise there. I don't think.
Not sure if that was exactly what they had
I
intended,
don't think so either.
but the result ended up to be pretty good.
I wasn't sure Burrish was actually ready for that either, the way.
Let's take a look at it here. That didn't work out too bad for him.
It didn't. It didn't. And that can happen when you leave your rocks in front of the house in a good position. Then sometimes if you slightly miss a shot, you can have some good things happen by moving around some rocks that you had left in front.
Cale Tesh, our teammate, basically always says that if the stone is in the back of the house, he doesn't care about it because it's not doing anything. It's the ones up top that you guys got to worry about for that exact same reason. Looks like they're just coming at it to clean up again.
Dan's last shot of the 6th end.
To curl.
Jammed up on the guard.
I can't tell right now who's shooting.
think red.
I think you're right too, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it should be fine. Touch one. We want to make sure we hit the inside of it.
Good.
I think red is shot.
Having a hard time understanding what he was talking about with that broom placement. You think he's just going to curl in from?
I think he might be trying to hit and run off his own. Sit up.
Well, yeah, it almost sounded like he was thinking about some kind of an in-off or something like that.
Now, Phil, when you say in-off, what do you mean by that? Explain that to the viewers.
Basically, an in-off is when you hit a stone on the outside of the house and it ricochets the shooter back into the middle of the house. It's a pretty difficult shot to make, and you really got to be on your A game to do it well. And they're definitely not doing that. I think he's just trying to draw in. And it's not going to want to hit.
Oh, there's an interesting question. What happens here? Okay, so here comes that stone again. As it comes in, I think it just gets hung up on the guard. Yeah.
Yeah, and pushes the one back in. So now it looks like Team Burrish is sitting 2.
So Phil, on this shot, what would you choose to do?
Yeah, they're up 5. The biggest thing is to not give up, not create a chance to get a big end. Frankly, I think I'd probably try and come at that blue one there that's at the top of the house. So they're sitting red, and force Nick to basically just accept 1 point or give up 3.
Gwen, what would you do?
Well, Team Burrish does have the last rock in this end, and they're already lying 2. And so it seems to me that what they're doing is they're playing a guard out in front to make it very difficult for Team Allmaker to be able to remove either of those 2 stones. At the moment, if you left them just sitting there like that, there is a potential for a double.
Looks like they're taking your advice, Gwen.
Might overthrow a little bit.
Yeah, it's running a little bit. It's probably deeper than they were hoping for it to.
They do have the one rock covered, I think, with the one kind of on the center line side does appear to be open. Yeah.
Oh, the double's there. The problem is if you hit that one on the left, you could jam up and knock out one of the blue ones. I don't think he's going after the double. It's quite a bit of ice for the upweight you would need to move 2 stones.
Yeah.
By ice, I mean where he's holding the broom for aim. Of course, he aims toward the broom, expecting the stone to curl and come to a rest where they wanted to for strategic reasons.
They're being asked to sweep really hard in order to keep the line. And there is that double.
Excellent shot.
That was a great
fantastic shot.
Wow.
So here comes that replay. See the stone coming in. Sweepers are on it. Slides just by and just
And
hits,
hits
it.
almost
Perfect.
both rocks almost at the same time. Didn't quite have enough weight to push the second run rock all the way out of the rings, but certainly enough to leave them lying 2, I think.
Yeah, that was a good shot. Fortunately, they're sitting out in the open now. Over on sheet D, the sheet next to ours, Debbie McCormick's having a good afternoon. Debbie, of course, is a world champion and 4-time Olympian and a good friend of Cedar Rapids curling.
All right, here comes the hammer.
Last rock from Michelle Wagner, just trying to come down and remove the rock that's sitting on the button.
That rolled out a little more than she expected.
Guess we'll see. It does look like red is 1. I think they're looking around the edges to decide. Red took 1, so Burish took 1 point in that end, and Allmaker will have the hammer next end.
All right, you're watching curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
All right, welcome back to Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. This is the beginning of the 7th end of the A event final for Cedar Spiel, hosted by Cedar Rapids Curling Club.
So because Team Burish is up by so much, it looks like what they've just asked is for Chris to purposefully throw his rock through the house. Team Burish does not need any more rocks in play. They don't really need any more points, and so just to keep the house cleaner, to keep less rocks around, just asked Chris to throw that rock right through the house.
And it's absolutely critical now that this stone not go in the house. It needs to stay out in that free guard zone area so that it's ineligible to be taken out by red until the 6th stone. And looks like she's going to hog it.
That's not going to be good. Okay, so to remind people, hogging it means that that stone has to cross that red line that was right there in front of them. That is a curling specific line, whereas the blue line that was just above it, that's a hockey line. And on curling ice, that means absolutely nothing. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. The blue line for the hockey means absolutely nothing in curling. And for a stone to be in play, it has to completely cross the hog line. And again, they've asked Chris to throw that rock, his rock, through the house. So just so everybody all knows that he didn't, he wasn't too heavy and accidentally threw it through. That was on purpose.
Strategical.
Yes.
Molly really needs to park a guard out there, and the set's going to get away from him again. Team Burish has shown that they're very capable of throwing takeouts. And if blue doesn't have some place to hide, they're going to have a difficult end.
That's a nice guard from Molly.
That is nice.
And that is in that free guard zone because it's between the red line, which you see at the top of the monitor there, which is the hog line, and the beginning of the house. So it cannot be knocked out of play at any point.
That guard is good for a couple of reasons. First, it's off in the corner, or off to the side, so that you leave the center of the house open. Team Allmaker has the hammer, and typically you want to keep the center of the house open so that you can draw in for the final point of that end. And it looks like Team Burris chose to hide under that guard.
That was a nice draw from Phil, and good bounce back after his
bounce back.
Yeah.
So does this mean that Allmaker's going to be trying to put stones in the house since Burris has just put theirs in?
I think that they're probably going to try to start putting some stones in the house. That rock is the team from Burris is a little bit behind the tee line, so they could draw down to it. But now it looks like they're actually trying to throw another guard more to the top of the 12-foot.
Yeah, he wants it under 12-foot. And he's going to get it. Very nice throw.
That's a nice throw.
Oh, I think that's short.
From
yeah,
Keeley.
it did. It just barely didn't bite. Dan, of course, wants that stone out of there because it's a place to hide.
And he probably doesn't care if he keeps this stone around or not.
Probably prefer his shooter doesn't stick around.
If you roll into the house, though, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's never really a bad time to put stones in a scoring position. And we can see here that there's only one person sweeping. Why would Skips choose only specifically to have one as opposed to both?
Well, sometimes they may be sweeping just to clean. They don't really want to warm the ice up. They just want to make sure that the stone doesn't pick up a piece of dust or lint or something on the ice. Also, there is various. What's going to happen here for a second? It's like they were coming after that red one and over-curled.
Just over-curled, yeah.
But you can actually, if one side is sweeping more than the other, that can cause the stone to curl more or not curl as much. It's called directional sweeping. It's done a lot at the highest levels of competition. You really got to be one of the better sweepers, though, to make a serious effect by only having one of the players sweep. I'd say Phil's probably in that category.
I would too, except the fact that he's using Gwen's broom.
Is that your broom, Ken?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what's the shot being called here?
I think that they're trying to draw around that guard. Team Burris tried to remove that guard from play. Unfortunately, was not able to clear their own stone, and so left it out front as a guard. Or trying to go a little.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Or they might have been just trying to play that little tick and roll, so where they, hit off of the red rock that was at the top of the 12-foot and roll behind the guard. But now we'll see Team Burris trying to remove the guard that they left there. So that there's nothing for Team Allmaker to hide behind. So this would be called a peel, which we haven't really seen in our game before. So where you remove the rock that is sitting out front as a guard and you remove your thrown rock.
So here we can see it as it's coming in. And you can see it curling too as the stone's spinning. So it hits the guard, pushes it out of play, and then it had enough weight to take itself out as well.
Trying to remove that red one at the top of the house. Oh, no, I stand corrected. They're coming in. Boy, that right side of the sheet has a lot of swing in those last few feet.
So why stay on that side one? Why not switch over to the other side where there's literally nothing in the house? Just try and come in from that direction and really end up splitting the house and making life infinitely more difficult for you.
Well, for Allmaker's shot or Baresh's shot now?
Sorry, for Baresh's shot now. Why not go to the right side? And then that would make life more difficult for Allmaker.
It would. They're just trying to keep all of the Allmaker rocks out of the ring. So I believe that they're just trying to play a takeout on this rock that's at the top of the 12-foot. But as we've seen, and as Phil mentioned, it does curl really, really hard this way. That was a nice removal from Michelle. Nice rock.
It was nice not to hit it straight on the nose so it didn't jam up on the red one behind it.
Yep. You can see this hit again.
Yeah, by hitting it at on the corner like that, it also allowed the shooter to get out of the way too. Yeah. It's like Michelle and Dan are feeling comfortable about this game at this point.
I think so. They're curling really well.
And one of the great things about the sport is even when a game is slipping away from the other team, they're still absolutely civil and courteous to each other. They aren't high-fiving and unnecessarily celebrating like you might see in some other sports.
That's one of the things that people enjoy most about curling is the civility of it. You know, you begin the game with a handshake. And you say, good curling. You know, you wish your opponent well.
That's right. You always want to win, but at our level, we're more interested in having a good time, getting a little exercise, and catching up with old friends.
And continuing to learn and improve too.
That's right.
And so even when you're down in a game, there's always things to learn. There's always things to practice for yourself. There's things to learn from the other team too, which is another great part about curling.
That's right. If you drove 5 hours to be here, you're here to play.
Mm-hmm.
Let's finish the game. A lot of arena clubs do not get a tremendous amount of ice time to practice.
All right, here's the last rock for Team Burish as Michelle Wagner throws it, the 4 stones.
Yeah, I think she wanted that into the... I think she was trying to guard the red one that's up high, and it just overcurled.
It does leave Allmaker a draw, Nick Allmaker a draw to the 8-foot, the full 8-foot in order to take his point. So I think that's what they're going to be trying to accomplish on this end, for this end.
I don't think Team Burris should be very upset about that. There's only one more end to play. And if Nick gets this point, Team Burris would have the hammer. It really puts him in the driver's seat for that last end. And he's coming in pretty hard. So that's
not the shot he wanted, I don't
No,
think.
it's not, and I would expect they're going to shake hands at this point.
Yeah, it looks like they just made the...
Yeah.
Just a little bit heavy from Nick on that rock.
Yeah, that gave them 2 points and effectively mathematically eliminates the ability to win.
All right, we're going to head to a break. You are watching Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22. Stay tuned for more.
After the rain stops and the wind dies down, when the fire's gone out and the dust settles, we rise up together and become a force of nature all our own. As part of this community, Mediacom stands with you, doing everything we can not only to restore your service, but to help provide emergency communication access, assist relief efforts, and support our neighbors.
CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone. CenturyLink loves to talk about their 1 gig internet, but you can't get it at Beth's house or John's house. It's not available in JoJo's neighborhood or within 100 miles of the Smith family. The truth is, CenturyLink 1 gig isn't for everyone. Make sure you have access to the fastest. Switch to Mediacom Extreme and get the future-forward speed you need from the 100% gigabit technology network, the fastest for everyone.
Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22 was brought to you by Extreme, powered by Mediacom. Well, it was a little bit of a lopsided game with Team Burrish from Capital City Curling Club in Bismarck, North Dakota, picking up 9 points, and Team Allmaker only being able to put 1 point up on the board. They shook after the 7th end because the only way that Team Allmaker could have come back was a score of 8 in curling, which is virtually impossible, especially against a team like Burrish. It's been a wonderful weekend here at Cedar Rapids. I'd like to thank Cedar Rapids Curling again, and folks are wrapping up and starting to make the long ride home. Thank you for watching Curling in Cedar Rapids on Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.